This is a 69 Camaro RS SS. It's got a big block and 4-speed. It's going to get a full repaint. That's the color scheme, white with the orange stripes. I don't think it's not going to get all the pace car graphics, but just the stripes. It's a real nice shape, but it just had some epoxy on the bare metal that was like rollered on just to keep it from rusting. So once I get into it, I'll see if I can save it. It's all assembled. I don't really want to take it completely apart. I have to take the hood and the front valance pieces off, and the trunk lid to make it easier to sand and paint everything. But it's pretty much all new underneath, like the drivetrain, and it's all been redone, rebuilt. Super clean underneath. So that'll get all taped off. And then I'll just focus on the exterior. As far as I know, it's pretty much all original. I mean, some body work has been done, but it needs to be, you know, just checked out and verified everything looks okay. I never tried to paint fully assembled like this, so I don't really like this, but the doors are all assembled and lined up, and the fenders are lined up, so it's not something I want to take apart. But I think I'm going to clean up these door jambs, and then I'll spray them as I'm spraying the rest of the car and get them all cleaned up nice and repainted. But there's really no repairs, no body work that needs to be done other than truing up the existing work that's been done. But you can see it's pretty pristine in here, all nicely done. So it just needs, I'll probably tape underneath this edge here, and then leave all this, and then just focus on the top plan so that, you know, there's no tape lines or transitions. So that's the next project. It's a nice one, and it's going to be white. So I already had issues with white on the Mustang, but I'm convinced that the weather being summer and the humidity's higher, I won't have the static issues I had with that. So hopefully, cross fingers, this goes better. Camaro's all taped up, sealed up, top and bottom, all the way around underneath. It's quite a bit of time to get everything taped. But that way there I can sand and do all the body work or whatever needs to be done without worrying about damaging or getting any paint or dust interior and trunk. Tried to seal every hole I could find. Got the hole underneath covered. So I gotta finish. I gotta put a couple pieces on the doors. Even though the windows are covered with paper, I want to just kind of wrap it all the way around where the interior panel ends, so that no dust and debris and paint overspray gets in on the mechanisms. I'll probably cover it right up to the glass. So we'll see how it goes when I start sanding. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do all the body work yet. I took some time to align the fender. He was having trouble with the body panel alignment. I got it a lot better, but I think it's just as good as you can get it at this point. It's a little close here. There's a little bit of a bump out here for some reason. I don't know if that's, I think it's part of the panel. I tried to scrape some of the paint off, and that's right to the metal. So, but I got the gap a little better, and I got the alignment better on the body lines. I don't know, so much this could really go in, but if you try to go in, you're going to lose this gap. And I don't think he wants me to go and redo all the gaps on the thing. That's, as long as they don't hit and they look like they're factory, that's good. So next step will be kind of attacking the primer they put on over the bare metal and see how it stands, or if I need to take it all off. I don't think so, but we'll see how it goes. Making a little progress on the 69 Camaro. Started stripping some of the primer that was put on previously. I think I'm going to have to sand it all off because I'm finding a little bit of traces of rust underneath some of the panels. And there was some previous Bondo work that was done. I mean, it was done okay, but I just, you know, if I'm going to do a nice job, I want to do it from scratch and make sure everything is covered. And see, you can see some rust blemishes underneath that the primer was put on top of. So that makes me a little nervous. I want to make sure that everything's nice and clean metal before I put epoxy primer on it. Any filler work that was done was pretty minor, so I'm not too concerned about redoing it. It's very, very little so far, but there could be some more on the quarter panels because they were replaced at one point, and I don't really know, you know, how they were done or the quality. So I think it's best to just strip that down to bare metal and kind of see what we have to work with. So, but it's a real nice car. I got everything prepped, everything taped off, put the wheels and tires in contractor bags so they're sealed up nice. Everything's sealed up around the doors and the interior. Everything got taped off real well. Even the underhood was, you know, really nice, so I taped all that off so I don't get any overspray on anything or dust. So it's moving along pretty good. So I got to stripping the spoiler off, and it was just kind of that gray color, and then I found that there's blue, and then under the gray, and then more gray under the blue. I didn't see any white or orange other than the white. I think this is, I don't even know if this, I don't think this is fiberglass because it looks like a injected molded part. So I think it was just injected molded white, and that's what I'm seeing here. But then I noticed somebody repaired some holes, and then there's some damage here that was repaired, and some cracks. I thought there was a crack over here somewhere too. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it was just something in the sand, sand that I saw. But so I think this is just like plastic or some kind of injected molded plastic. I don't think it's fiberglass. Doesn't look like it. There's no strands or woven materials, but I don't know much about these, so maybe it is, but I don't think so. But anyway, this needs to be repaired properly, and that needs to be, I mean, this looks like that old-fashioned, you know, single stage putty I used to use back in the day, and you just squish it in the hole, call it good. So that needs to be feathered out and dug out and properly filled. So not too bad, but just wanted to catch it before it was all done, what was actually there. I didn't see any orange at all. I did see some of that orange, and I thought, because it was a bunch of it here, and I thought, oh, maybe that's the stripe, but no, it's just this red colored putty. So a little work there, not too bad. I'm gonna take this and I'll sandblast all this out because it's really hard to get to, and there's, you know, there's evidence of, you know, rust, a little bit of rust pitting here and there, some dark spots. So we can do that with a sandblaster. I can get some of those pieces, just touch them up where you can't get to it with the sanding. You don't want to grind away too much, make the metal thin. So looking pretty good. Pretty much all the body and all the parts are stripped. I ended up taking the doors off and taking the internals out just to make it easier to work on. Plus we decided that it'd be best to put new door skins on. I still have a little bit of cleanup. Using a little wire brush to get up in those little corners. Got to finish that up. Got some areas around the wheel wells inside. I'd rather not take the hinges off because they're kind of set properly for the alignment, but they're kind of in the way if I want them to have. I don't think I'm going to strip all that door jamb, but I'll clean it up for sure and sand it real good. But I got a lot of the little tiny corners I gotta get in there yet. Found some repairs that need a little touch up. Got all the way around the door trunk jamb. That's clean. I got the tail panel. That's pretty clean. I like this 3M, but it doesn't even stand up to air blowing there. It gets kind of tore up. It's not very durable, but it's easy to work with. But I mean, I just kind of put it on there as a dust cover for right now anyway. I'll end up redoing the plastic, putting another layer on. I got the hood edges stripped. There, the hood was already done. So all the panels are done. Trunk lid, all the valance pieces, cowl, spoilers. I got the door jamb, or the door shells cleaned up. I found a little bit of rot here. I gotta fix that up. I started cutting this one apart. It's almost ready to go. Just grind the edges and the whole skin will pop off. Gotta go back and get a couple more spots here. But this one was in pretty rough shape. I mean, there was a lot of damage. And even this one, doesn't look too bad. But there's some creases that's hard to see, but there's some creases along the body line. And then there was some dents that were drilled out and filler put in, so they'd have to be welded up anyway. So I got new skins here. I think the driver's side's a little off. I might have to slice it and realign it. Get the body lines to line up better, but not the end of the world. Pretty much all the materials here except for the color. So I got a white and the orange for the stripe coming. So now it's just a matter of doing a whole lot of work, but it's going on pretty good. Got the driver's door skin removed, test fit, and got the new one test fit. And so far fits pretty good. But the inner side of the shell is pretty rusted, so I might just sandblast it all and then epoxy it before I attach the skin. And then the inside of this has got to have sound deadening anyway, so it's way easier to do it now. I'll just leave like an inch or so around the edges so it doesn't interfere with the flanges on the shell. So I might just set this aside for now and pull apart the other door and get going on that one. The skin came off pretty easy, just grind around the edges. And then at the top I just cut with the cutoff wheel on the top edge, pops the skin off, and then I drill the spot welds a little bit, and then I'll make a little bit of a slice with my cutoff wheel right about in between the spot welds, and then you can fold these pieces, these tabs up, and then I'll cut that off with the cutoff wheel, that little piece that's left, if it doesn't break free, and then smooth it out. No need for an air chisel or saws or any crazy, you know, tools. I don't want to damage. I want to keep this as intact as possible, because you start getting real aggressive and it'll damage all this flange and everything will be out of shape. So I like to just cut away at it gentle, and then it comes off easy. Got the door skin off the passenger door. Came off pretty good. So I'm going to get my sandblaster out and I'll just blast off both the door shells so that, you know, make them nicer looking and cleaner. So no rust comes back later, you know, after it's all done. So that would suck. So that'll be the next thing. Got the sandblaster set up, and I already started doing the edges of the door jambs of the door shell. Mostly focusing on the edges where it's going to be overlapped. Don't want to get any rust started. So I'll do this edge yet, and then do the other door. And I also did the inside, but just kind of quick, just to get any loose stuff off. So I got the door shells epoxy primered, and I sprayed undercoat inside. I don't really care for it. I might still put a piece of some of the hush type material in there. They still sound pretty tinny, so. But the one thing I noticed, I'm just hanging the skins on real loose just to see how they look, how they fit, how they align. You notice at the top is pretty bowed up, probably from being stamped, the stamping, which not a big deal. I'll just clamp this down as I weld it, as I already did that on the passenger side. I put some screws in just to hold it temporarily, and I'll clamp it as I go, and now it's pretty nice and straight. But I really just wanted to make sure there was no major issues with alignment. I mean, the body lines look pretty good. Needs a little work up here, but that'll clean up when I actually clamp all the flanges down. I can hammer this in a little bit. And this side needs a little work, but again, these are just, I just put a couple tech screws in the bottom just to see. And I want to make sure it's even like close to fitting, you know. That's a little off here, but again, all the doors have to be lined again and everything, but not a big deal. This needs to come down a little bit here. It's a little high. This might be a little short, so might need a little bit of work on that. Get those lined up better, but overall not too bad. I mean, you know, they're really just pieces of metal to work with that are roughly shaped correctly, so there'll be some fine tuning. So this is a pretty handy tool, $140 or so, I can't remember how much, but you can adjust it for thickness, and it lets you squeeze down this seam real smooth. So I got it bent over with the hammer, and now I can take it. I already did this section here with the tool, and I left it pretty thick so I can still move things around, and I'll do the rest of this seam. So that's just, I kept it kind of thick just to get it knocked over and smooth. And then once I finalize everything, because I could probably still shift around the door a little bit, twist it if I have to, and then I'll go back over it with it, you know, much tighter. You can slide this up, you know, make a nice tight seam. And then I can finish. I already put holes for some spot welds around the edges, and I can go back and weld them up. I got the doors fitting pretty good, but lined up pretty well. But it just seems like there's a high point here. The fender comes up, and then the door goes down. So, and then like I have tighter gaps at the bottom than at the top. Same thing here, I have tighter gap at the top than at the bottom. And then I have a bigger gap in the front and the back. So just by lowering this door and the fender just a tiny bit, I think would solve a lot of these issues. So the only issue really is when you have the door, the fender isn't going to come off. It's really hard to get to those bolts. Now I can pull the door off and adjust the bolts for the hinges, but then they're going to get out of alignment. So what I made was a quick bracket, and it simulates the door being on there. And now I can get to those bolts and just move them up and down a little bit and tweak the alignment, pull this plate off, put the door back on, and check it. I mean, it's a little bit more of an involved process, it's going to take a little longer, but I don't take the fender off that way, and I can tweak the height of the fender with the bolts and the shims and lower the fender down a little bit, and that'll bring everything hopefully in alignment. I mean, it's probably going to take a few tries, but this will save me from having to take the fender off, which is very involved. There's a lot of parts and equipment bolted in the front. You got the Rally Sport vacuum doors that are attached, and I don't really want to disturb all that because it's all done, all painted, all finished. So hopefully this will work. So I'll give it a try. So I'm already seeing an improvement by adjusting down the front of the door and raising up the radiator support. So now the body lines they're much straighter now, and they line up a lot better. And by bringing the front of the door down, it made the gap at the bottom tighter, opened it up at the top a little bit. It needs a little more. It's still not quite even front to back, but it's a lot better. So that seemed to work. I'm a little concerned about up here. This doesn't, I don't know, this might be alright, but it's a little bit off, I think, still, as far as being parallel to the windshield about this trim. So I have to take a look at that. But I think by raising the front and then lowering all this, and then that allowed the door to twist a little bit in the opening and gave me much better gaps. And I'm going to try the other side and see how that helps. Here's the bracket I cut on the plasma cutter. I cut some holes and made just out of a chunk of scrap steel. So that allows me to loosen all these bolts and then still keep the orientation correct, so the door will still bolt back on, and I can twist it up and down, you know, side to side or up and down. So I lowered a little bit and then twisted it up a little bit, so I'll bring the back up. It's a little harder to do it this way because you can't really tell how much to move it, but the door pops on pretty easily and go back and forth a few times. Try to get it a lot closer. Making some pretty good progress on the Camaro. I got the door skins all welded up and the seams all tight. I went around and kind of readjusted all the gaps. I think I had to cut back down in here and here, and then welded back up the edges. You see a little bit of trace of how I was welding it, because once you dig down too far, you split the edge. But as long as you go back and re-weld it, it'll be fine. So I'm pretty happy with the gaps on this side. I went back and forth a couple times, different adjustments. It's not perfect, but it's probably as good or better than it came from the factory. The other side's not too bad. I had to add some material here because the new door skin was kind of bowed in or curved where the seam, where the edge was hemmed over. And this side had to be cut down up here and here, and then actually had to have some added here. You can see where I had welded there and had to weld up here where I cut it into it too far and split it. So, but I'm very happy with the fitting of them. They're much better than they were. So I think I have a couple of other spots to fix. There's a little hole right there. It's got to be welded up. And then there's a hole up under here somewhere. Yeah, right there. I'm gonna weld that up. And once I get those sealed up with, you know, fixed up properly, I'm gonna sand it down one more time and get a little bit of surface rust coming back. I mean, just a couple of little spots, you know, like right there maybe. I think I saw a couple spots over here. I don't know where it was. A spot on the fender somewhere, I think. Yeah, there it is. A little bit of surface rust coming back because of the humidity from the summer. So I want to get it in epoxy soon. Maybe even this weekend if I can get it cleaned, sanded and cleaned, and I got some areas to re-tape up, and then I'll get it all sealed up with epoxy so I don't have to worry about anything rusted, and then I can start doing some filler work on it. So it's going along pretty good. Got all the panels prepped and sanded and ready to go. So I was able to get 2 coats of epoxy primer on the body and all the panels. Helps really show some of the repair work that needs to be done. as far as body filler goes. There's not really any panel that doesn't have some kind of deformity or damage, but it's not awful, just normal stuff. So I'll let this cure a couple days and then I can start doing some filler work. I think the door skins came out pretty good. In some areas I had to cut back and re-weld or add some area to the doors, and they came out pretty good. I think this corner here got quite a bit of build up right here because it's bringing that parallel with the door jamb. But I think it's a lot nicer with new skins because the other ones were really in rough shape, so they would have taken a lot of work to get back to looking good. So getting something accomplished.